Okay, I wanted to share with you guys a video to help you with your homework so that you can use to refresh and review from the day or to use in between your attempts just in case you're struggling with this type of problem. So you're going to be solving for using percent and ratios. So in this first problem that I gave you, it says Nancy placed 3 red pens and 12 yellow pens on the cork board. What percentage of the pens are red pens? So when we look at this, this is a part to whole ratio because we have to combine the total number of pens to figure out what the percent of red pens are. Okay, we know that when we're dealing with percent, the denominator will always be 100. Okay, and then when we add the total number of pens to get our whole, it's 12 plus 3. We've got 12 yellow pens and 3 red pens, so the whole amount of pens is 15. So I'm going to make sure everything stays lined up, and I'm going to put the 15 with the whole amount. Okay, and then they're asking about red pens, so I'm going to use the 3 as the numerator over the amount of pens. Okay, so what we're trying to find is what percent of the pens were red pens. So I'm going to use a variable there for the unknown, what we're trying to find. And to solve this type of problem, we're going to use cross multiplication. So I'm going to highlight what we need to cross multiply. Okay, so we'll set up our equation and it'll look like this. It will be 15 times x, because when we cross multiply, that's what we're going to use, and then 100 multiplied by 3. So if I keep processing this down, I get 15x is equal to 300. And with variables, remember, we have to make sure that we isolate the variable, and this one reads 15 multiplied by x is equal to 300. So since that's multiplication, we have to use the inverse operation of multiplication to isolate that variable. So with it being multiplication, the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 15. Remember that equal sign tells us what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So on this side, 15 divided by 15, it simplifies to 1, so we have 1x on this side. And 300 divided by 15, when we calculate that, we get 20. So our final ratio would look like this. It would be 20 over 100 is equal to 3 over 15. So this was the part and this was the whole. And that 20 is the percent that we were looking for. So your answer would be 20% of the pens were red. Okay, and that's how you'll answer it on your homework. You'll just have to fill in the number that's missing. All right, next problem. Okay, it says Andrew answered 80% of all the questions on the last math test correctly. If he answered 32 questions correctly, what was the total number of questions on the math test? Okay, so again, this is a part to whole ratio. So part to whole, we're going to set that up, and again, we have to keep everything lined up with part to whole. And so the part of the questions that he answered correctly in percent was 80%. And again, we'll put that over 100 because percentage is based on 100. And we know that the part of the amount that Andrew answered correctly was 32 questions. But what we don't know this time is what was the total number of questions on the math test. So we'll use a variable for that. Okay, so now we have everything lined up and it's proportional. So again, we're going to use cross multiplication to solve this. So this is how we'll cross multiply. Okay, and now let's set up our equation. So the one side of the equation with the variable is 80 times x is equal to 100 multiplied by 32. And we're going to continue working this down. So 80x is equal to 3,200. And that's 80 multiplied by x. So we have to work to get that variable by itself. So if it's multiplied by x, we have to use the inverse operation to isolate the variable. So I'm going to divide by 80. And that equal sign tells us that what I do to one side, I also have to do to the other. Okay, so when I divide both of these by 80, 80 divided by 80, that results in just one x, so I'll just put an x here. And then when I calculate 32 divided by 80, the quotient is 40. So our equation, our ratio would look like this when we get it set up. It would be 80 over 100 is equal to 32 of 40. Okay, so this is the amount that we were looking for the whole amount of questions, the total amount of questions that were on the test. So your answer to this would be there were 40 total questions on the test. Okay, so good luck, guys. If you have any questions, you're welcome to send them through the portal, and I will do my best to answer through the portal. Good luck, guys. Hope this helps.